All right. We are recording, we are live, and you are in day three, almost a 3 day, day three of Small Business Week with GoDaddy. And I'm so pumped to have our next speaker today, Adam Griggs. I can go on and on and say some things. I don't haven't known him as long as these other people have in our LinkedIn group, but just his presence, the way that he exudes confidence, how he takes command of the room, but also more than that, like just his voice and how he talks. So I'm ready to get inspired by Adam's journey. And he's the CEO of CLARAfi. And he's going to be jumping on, and we're going to be going through the idea of creating a business and then also a platform as well. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Adam. I know y'all are tired of me talking, and everyone give him a round of applause, make him feel welcome in the chat box as well. And again, we will be recording this, and you will get this later next week. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam. Adam?
Hey, I am here. I appreciate everybody for joining us. For some reason, I can't get my video to turn on. So I appreciate everybody that is here today and being part of this conversation. And hello to all the familiar faces that are here in the chat. Uh, I'm going to be going through just a quick presentation of what it means to really build a business from scratch, but I want to do that through storytelling. So bear with me while I get my screen up here. Hopefully you guys can see this. I really just want to emphasize as we kind of go through this that everything we do is centered around community, right? Building a business from scratch is not for the faint of heart, ever. And when you decide to go from idea to concept, it's a big move. And so I want to emphasize as we go through today's presentation, I share kind of my story with CLARAfi and how we built something beautiful along the way, that we did it with the idea of community kind of at the heart of it. So my name's Adam Griggs. I'm the co-founder of CLARAfi. I lead a movement called Own It, Love It, which is really built to help people find what they love to do and own their time and own their options and own that life and create their own stories. So thank you for being here with me. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to everybody today. Before we get started, I do want to go over what I'm going to share today. Okay, it's going to be quick. It's going to be really brief, but I want to talk about the objectives and the big why is leading this. But keep in mind, again, that idea of community, because everything that I'm going to talk about today only came to life because of community, because of the people that I'm surrounded by. I'm not going to be able to keep my eyes on the chat while doing this presentation, guys. So if there is questions, I'm going to let you just pop them in the chat. Jeffrey, if there's something important somebody wants to touch on, I'm an open book. This is a conversation, right? So we're going to
Yeah,
go over
you
the big
got it.
why. Awesome. I appreciate it. We're going to go over the big why. We're going to go over defining an idea, methods and timing to that idea, and what it means to really canvas the community to give you the strength to bring that to life. And then taking the leap, right? Finding early results and taking that leap. And then in conclusion, we're going to have open Q&A, comments, kudos. And again, just from a grateful heart, I am so very fortunate to even be here and be part of this wonderful community. So thank you for that. The big why. So how do you go about defining an idea, right? I think that's the number one question. If you've got an idea for what you feel like could be a viable business, something that could really emphasize and elevate community around you, your local community, people around you, your lifestyle, giving you control of your life and time and income. Ideas are a wonderful creative light bulb that can strike us at any moment, but generally there are times that come when innovation is needed the most, right? The moments of stress or when we're backed into a corner. History has taught us that that tends to be what's happening. But I think things are shifting a little bit. We're getting a little bit more creative. Technology is making things a little bit easier for us to explore ideas. And I want to disarm everybody. You don't have to know it all, right? Because Mr. Know-It-All does Mr. Nothing at all. You need to utilize your community to build something. So I want to challenge you that if you do have an idea to bring a business to life, one of the things that I had to learn was to really sit with that idea. It's really important to take a moment, create some space, take inventory on why your new business or app or venture or whatever it is needs to exist. And I think that's a very important part of bringing this business to life, because if we don't explore the why, and I mean, we all have our own burning desires, our own goals in life, but why does the business need to exist? What's the impact and the outcome going to be? Is taking your idea from dream to reality going to create a win-win? I feel like we need to focus on that more and more as we bring new businesses and new innovation to the forefront, because there's been so much discussion about technology and replacement, and displacement, and really emphasizing efficiencies. And I think all of that aside, if you've got a beautiful concept or idea, you really just need to sit with it and kind of lean in on it. I'll give you a little backstory on CLARAfi. So in 2008, I started in this journey with small businesses, amongst the collapse of the world, right? And it was a challenging time. It was a lot of pessimism out there, and I had decided that I wanted to work with small business owners, and of course, they were the ones that were really trying to hold the world up, to really giving people the opportunity to make a living, support their families. Um, and I learned a lot along the way, right? Through the struggles, through the obstacles, the highs and the lows. And along the way, we started seeing that as things progressively got better, our clients, our small business owners, were actually being dealt with in a reactive manner, which kind of punished them, it penalized them, gave them this idea of coulda, woulda, shoulda with their advisors, with their taxation, with their CPAs, with their attorneys, wealth managers. People tend to come to the table with an overview of what happened and what could have been done better. And so we really wanted to kind of challenge the way that we interact with businesses. And that's how the idea of CLARAfi was born. I'll give you a little bit of a story on where these inspirations came from. When I first started in business, this is a long time ago, I met this guy named Kevin. And Kevin was a really, really unique contractor. He was a swimming pool contractor, just a guy in a truck, right? Big dreams, came from Mexico, came over here, the idea of starting this big business and really just building something meaningful for his community so he could give jobs to the people that he loves and supports, his family and those around him. And Kevin had, big dreams. He wanted to tackle some big projects. He wanted to learn what it was like to bid on things that were a little bit higher or out of reach. And his advisors thought that he was a little bit too green, right? That he needed another 10 years probably to get his experience under his belt, to prove his validation, his worth. And they wouldn't give him the advice that he needed. And so he was looking for somebody to shed some light. I met with Kevin through community, through a connection. And I went out there and I met with him in a parking lot. His Costco parking lot. It was really hot. We spent a couple of hours just kind of going over his dreams, right? And he did a great job of vividly casting his dream of what he wanted to do over the next couple of years and how he wanted to really build this big business, from scratch. And so I shared some information on what I've seen, how people get certificated. I come from a risk management insurance background, so very red tape. But I was willing to share that with him, knowing that I wasn't going to get anything right now. And I think that's valuable to understand, because sometimes you got to take a risk on small business owners with big dreams to allow them to grow into the space that's going to really affect their community, going to elevate others and create new opportunities. And Kevin today is one of my largest clients. He's got hundreds of employees. He works in multiple cities. And if I hadn't taken the time to sit down and proactively give him that advice, he might not have had the confidence to take that leap. So that's paramount. That's number one. On the converse side of that, later down the road, actually just a few short years ago, I had a client named Jackie who really wanted to retire. And she had a big paving company. She had been running it since the 60s. And she really, really, really wanted to turn the reins over to her key employees. She respected them. She had a big heart. She wanted to do right by her employees. But because of the way that she had structured everything and reinvested in her business, like so many of us do, that was difficult. And her lenders and her wealth manager they were telling her to just liquidate, right? Liquidate, lay everybody off, take the money and run. And that's not what she wanted to do, right? She had a big heart. She wanted to figure out a way to make certain that she could retire with confidence and then turn the reins over. And I didn't know how to do what she was asking to do. That's number one. I did not know how to orchestrate a buy, sell, or transition plan, but you know what? I knew people that did. And I knew that Jackie was a meaningful and wonderful person. And I knew that we were going to substantiate a legacy business and keep it running. So for 9 months, we worked on this and we were able to get her lenders to come to the table. We had some great advisors that carried a lot of the weight for me, but we had a conversation around this. And we were able to turn the reins over and keep the business live, right? 45 people kept their jobs. The business kept moving forward. But you know what? It was very reactive. It was very abrasive. So I started thinking about these two employees or these two owners and entrepreneurs on like what they needed. And it really was, they needed well checked. They needed guidance counseling in the now, right? Proactive. So CLARAfi started incubating back then. And then I started meeting innovators. And I have to just share with you some beautiful, beautiful stories along the way for innovators. One of them is Arzu. She's actually been on our meetups, by the way, guys. We have these awesome community meetups in the GoDaddy community each month. Arzu was a corporate employee. She was just very driven, very, very successful, and then became a mom, right? And so many times this happens where you're given this choice in life of if you want to be a mom or you want to be an executive. And she didn't want to hi guys, you can see my face now. She did not want to give up. She didn't want to say no to either, right? You can have your cake and eat it too. That's what's cool about technology today. So she didn't know what she needed to get the process started, but she did know she wanted to build a business around moms and around her children so she could experience life and still have that thrill of building something meaningful. And she ended up working with a couple of people, incubating an idea called Call Emmy, and she brought it to life. And watching her do this, watching her not take the status quo, the written how-tos in life, right? The decisions, either home or office. She didn't take that. She went to her community. She asked the questions. She got the know-how, and she built something meaningful. So again, that inspired me and gave me confidence. And I share this because CLARAfi has only been brought to life because of the confidence I've been given by learning from others, right? By learning from others. I think that's an important thing. I want to share a little bit about defining an idea, right? We've heard a little bit about who inspired me. I'm going to shed some light on, when you actually think you have a viable idea for a new business. Written it down on a napkin, right? That's usually where most of us start, just like in the movies. What's the basis of your idea? Did you write it down? And are you willing to share it? I think that's a really, really valid question for those that think they want to start a new business, create an app, or launch a new venture. Because if you're not willing to share it, you got to ask yourself why. Are you afraid of somebody stealing your idea? Well, then is it really that valid of an idea? Are you afraid that you're not good enough? Well, that's going to come down to your own confidence. And we'll share a little bit more on what it means to actually challenge that mentality. But to take it from napkin to draft, you've got to be willing to share it. And so I started really talking with my co-founder, Alex, back then about sharing this concept and seeing what the feedback was and shedding light on it. Going from napkin to draft is a huge, huge step. You're taking your idea from just a written down concept to exploring that there's something more there. There's no blueprints to success. They just don't exist. Everybody's different. There's no one size fits all, but there are voices of experience, and they're inside of our communities. There's people that know how to do specific things and have been down the same road just like you. So what I want you to understand is when you're defining that idea and you're creating that draft, you've got to see if there's competition already out there. If there's not, you've got to ask yourself, well, why not? Why hasn't this existed before, right? Those are some questions you can ask yourself. And if there is competition, is your goal to deliver something more meaningful, more valuable, higher on the client experience? Is it going to emphasize and impact your local community? Those are valid reasons to bring a business to life. There will always be competition. Whether they're fringe competition or direct, there's always going to be that. So I don't even like to focus on that, but I want you to understand that if it hasn't existed before, if you're on the Peter Thiel 0 to 1 mentality, right? Why hasn't it existed before? And if it needs to come to life, can it be self-supporting? Can you create a business out of it? We all have mortgages to pay and food to put on the table. If you're going to chase a business, can it self-support and create a lifestyle for you? And then taking that to plan. Right? Creating a plan to get an MVP, target the power of community. You need to get a minimal viable product into the hands of your community, your target audience, as soon as possible. Know your competition, know what you want to do, know the power of community, and set that deadline. I think that's probably one of the most valuable things I learned along the way was setting that deadline, because everything takes longer than you could ever imagine. But if you have the right people keeping you accountable, if you have the right community cheering you on and wanting to join in that success, you will 100% go from napkin to draft to plan, and you'll set that deadline, and you will be in the throes of bringing your business to life. And it gets very, very exciting. So ask meaningful questions when you're creating this plan. Cast that vivid illustration of your dream, just like Kevin, right? And welcome others that can help make all of the difference. And I want to share a lot on welcoming others that can help make all of the difference, right? I think this is a very important thing that we have to balance. Methods and timing are everything. How we bring a business to life and when we bring it to life is going to matter. And we've got to balance tech and humanity. Does your big idea enhance the lives of others? Is it not just technical replacement, not just an attempt to be contrarian? So many of us want to be that 0 to 1, right? Going against the grain, that's what we've been taught. If you don't know it all, it can be very difficult to time when you're going to bring your business to life. And it can be very overwhelming. And the lack of confidence can really just drain that idea. So one of the methods I want to talk about is taking that leap. And I personally speak to this a lot each month during our meetups when we shed light on people that have taken the leap. We try to lead by example by connecting through community, by sharing those stories, because that's what creates that level of confidence to take the leap and begin to build. And really, when you start beginning to build, you start looking at your idea. You can only beat your head against the wall so many times before you either get knocked out or you go numb. And for us, we didn't want to go numb, right? Coming from a space of rules and red tape, it seemed like the powers outweighed the possible. And that made things seem like why would we even try building a business, right? There was a disrupt or die mentality, which can be dangerous. And on the other side of it, there was replace and profit mentality. And I didn't want to have anything to do with either of those. So I started exploring the idea a little bit more on bringing this app to life. And I didn't have any technical know-how, but I knew people that were connected to others that knew how to do what I was, setting out to do, what Alex and I wanted to do, which was challenge the way we communicate as business owners and advisors. And so we threw aside the disruptor die mentality. We threw aside the replace and profit mentality. We said, we want to embrace and really keep those, protect those relationships that people have. If you have somebody like, and trust that you work with as an advisor, as a leader, as a coach, as a visionary, and they're part of your story, we want to protect that, not replace them. And so we got to work. And one of the things I want to share with you is you're surrounded by greatness through community. At the end of the day, it's all about community. I know for some of you here today, and I've shared in the past, but honestly, I think a lot of us are wondering, if you're surrounded by greatness, how do you go about bringing that business to life without feeling like you're the small one in the room, like you don't know it all? Well, first of all, you've got to have a little bit of grace. You got to give yourself some grace, right? To go from idea to concept and bringing that minimal viable product, the MVP, to life, you've got to get in the hands of your customers, your ideal audience, and your community members, and really leveraging them is a big deal. For us, I didn't know how to code. I didn't know the specific type of code language, Elixir, that we used. And so I had to go and find somebody, and I had to find somebody I trusted. And it took a few, interactions with people and meeting some people that I started deciding what I did and didn't like. And you're going to find that when you bring your ideas to life. But through community, I was connected with a very, very wonderful person named Steven. He's a great enthusiast on the tech forums. He loves bringing businesses to life. And I started to see that people that have skills, that have the ability to do what you don't know how to do, are also energized and excited about the concept of bringing something to life. We're all creatives, right? We all want to celebrate together. And so he wanted to be part of a journey, part of bringing something to life, something that he could share in success. One of the things I want to share on is, because we're surrounded with greatness, we're surrounded by people that have the ability to change our trajectory, to change our story. I want to emphasize that you shouldn't wait. If you have an idea that's been burning in your heart and you want to bring it to life, you got to get to work on meeting those people, asking the questions, sharing and casting that vivid dream so that you can get to work and build that business. Again, I can't emphasize enough, Mr. Know-It-All is also Mr. Does Nothing at all. If you try to do it all, you'll fail. You'll collapse under pressure. If you try to know it all, you'll take so much time learning it that you'll run out of time to bring it to life. If you've ever seen the movie The Hummingbird Project, it's a wonderful movie about these guys that tried to create a perfect line, a perfectly straight line of fiber optics between the New York Stock Exchange and the Kansas Stock Exchange. And the idea was just to outrun the information being processed. It was not a new technology. It wasn't anything that was really innovative or against the grain, but they challenged themselves to do it. And they started breaking rules and really pressing forward on this vivid dream on how they were going to beat everybody by just getting a couple nanoseconds ahead. And it's interesting that we do that to ourselves so often. We spend all this time trying to build something to outrun others, as opposed to starting back at the idea of why we wanted to bring the business to life in the first place. And if you've seen the movie, at the end, they get almost completed, and then a new technology, a new way of transmitting information over radio waves is discovered, and they're completely obsolete, right? So it's one of those heart-wrenching moments where you're like, well, do I want to get started? Well, yeah, you need to. Perfectionism is a dangerous thing. I suffer from that. It took me a while to put things into the hands of our clients, but you've got to get it out there because you are surrounded by greatness. And I mean that in both ways. The people that are going to help you build it and bring it to life, those technical know-hows, They're going to be there. And then your community, if you've built the right trust with your community and you've got the right audience and you've got that safe space, they're going to be great to you in giving you feedback and in helping you reiterate and create something that's enhanced and built to really suit their needs. And so you start learning a lot about doing business with others. So together, this is what a community looks like. And I know we're going through some things that look technical. I wanted to have a little bit of fun with this because technology can get kind of boring. But if you have an idea and a plan, the step on any great idea is deciding whether it has merit to exist, and community's got to be at the center again. Community is what gives us that confidence to take the leap. And then it's enhanced by constantly listening and learning and taking feedback. And if you grow, well, then you can create, enhance, and challenge others, and you can be an inspiration. And I really want to emphasize that too, because as a community, if you're sharing in the journey, if you're sharing your successes and your failures, right, failing forward, then you can challenge others and really inspire others to create something wonderful and meaningful and beautiful as well. And business it's not forever, like perpetually forever, but it is, right? In our hearts. Business is moments of joy that we constantly create while interacting with our teams, with our clients, with our audience, with our communities. And it creates this environment of happiness. And really, that's what elevates us to levels of positivity when the world seems dark, when there's nothing but pessimism out there, right? Doom scrolling is a dangerous thing. So I want to share a couple of ideas around building a business. If you have a concept and you want to bring something to life, that's wonderful. If you don't, that's okay too. Because aside from everything else, if you can get away from the doom scrolling, if you can get away from the negativity, if you can get away from vegging out on some of these social media platforms and start creating a little bit of awareness, right? A radar, or putting up your antenna, if you will, you'll start seeing opportunities. So what I mean by that is it's very much like the effect of when you buy a Toyota, right? You buy a Toyota, you drive it down on the road, and all of a sudden you're like, dang, everybody's got a Toyota. Where did all these come from? It's because you are now focused on that and it's part of your life and you start seeing it all around you. And that's a great way to get out of that doom scrolling or the negativity moments and into a community that's building businesses. If you really start looking at gaps that exist in services and business, look at them as gaps that need solutions, not problems, not things to complain about. And if you look at it in that light, you're going to start hearing people in a different way. You're going to start innovating and being creative in a different way. And you're going to start getting ideas that are going to challenge the way you think. And maybe there's something there. Maybe there's a way for you to build a business around that, or bring your business to life, or create an app that's going to enhance the lives of the people that you love and support, your local community, right? So I want to challenge yourself, challenge each and every one of you, that if you're in business, if you're just starting, if you're a legacy player, right, you've been around for a while, start interacting a little bit more in your community with that open radar. And if you've had a business, reach down and pull somebody else up. Share with them your successes and your failures. Share with them what you've seen in ways that maybe you've seen gaps you can't fill, right? And sharing in those conversations is exhilarating. It creates this idea, this plan that community at the center can really challenge the way we do anything. And as we go throughout the rest of our careers ahead of us, life is going to get more fast-paced. There are going to be challenges. There's going to be challenges for people that want to build their own business and their own apps. And really, it just comes down to whether or not you've got the right why, whether or not you're building something that can really enhance your life and those around you. It's serving both. It's a win-win. Technology is getting faster. The ease of creating ideas and bringing those visually to life is getting better. So I challenge you to take it from napkin and have a little bit of fun, get creative with it. And then before I close it out, I really, 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 I want to be grateful to everybody that's here today. One of the things that I cannot harp on enough is the fact that we are in a community together. There are so many people around us in this community that have elevated personas. We've got New York Times best-selling published authors and people that lead massive audiences online and social media. Later today, we're going to be hearing from Patrick. He's got, worldwide fame on his books on creating a difference. I think that these are valuable things that we have around us, and it can really elevate our ability to take our idea from concept, from napkin, to real life. So I know that we're part of a community where we can have an idea, we can get a website and a domain, and we can sit there, right? That's a landing page. That's not a business. I think there's going to be an emphasis, as you see, on sharing what that business actually needs to do with the community, you're going to find that you've got a safe space in front of you to do so. And if there's anything that I can do, since all of you are part of my community, if there's anything I can do to be a megaphone for you, I would love, love, love to champion bringing your idea to life, to helping you find the right people, or even sharing your stories so that you can be an inspiration to others. I think that that's valid and valuable. I think everything that we do in this community together is going to elevate us to the next level, right? And keep us moving forward. And it doesn't matter if stock market's going up and down. It doesn't matter if some of the jobs are being replaced elsewhere, because we can be creative together. We can support each other, and we can substantiate and really keep a consistent flow of opportunity together. And before I stop sharing, I want to just share with the rest of you that later this month, I'm going to be working on a boot camp, if you will, a workshop for those that have that napkin on an app, right, that they want to build, or a technical business they want to build. I'm going to be having a boot camp at the end of May on how to take that from napkin to plan, and where to find the people that know how to build it. And I would love, love, love if you followed me online. I'm very active on LinkedIn, of course. You all know that. And I just appreciate everything that the GoDaddy team has done to make this week possible. I appreciate the fact that I'm surrounded by such greatness, and I've been humbled to be able to even share my journey here. Right. At the end of the day, we all win together. We're all in the same storm, but in different ships. So if we work together, we can really create something beautiful and meaningful. And so I'm so grateful to be part of your community. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to open it up here. I really just want to appreciate everybody that's been in the chat, by the way. I cannot even with all these comments. And I love all of your big hearts, and just wonderful place of where you're at mentally, and just being here with us. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Adam. I think it's, again, I've been keeping my eye on the comments as well. I think it's, such a testament to the impact you have made on not only this community, but all of like the individuals within it and outside of it in their own personal lives. And, you have been such a champion for this entire community since it might not have been day one, but I think it very well may have been day two. And that is such an incredible, again, it's such an incredible thing, and we're so grateful for you. And we're so, especially like, it's not only to have you be so active in the community, it's also so helpful that you're so smart. It's so helpful that you're so smart, and the things you say have such value. And I know that I speak for many people who are on this call, but I wrote so much down. I'm so glad we have this chat, if only so that I can like let's save phrases that I can ask my friend to embroider, so I can have them all hanging on my wall, my big inspo wall. But I wrote some questions down. I wanted to run by you, everyone in the chat. I know you've reached out with some questions. If you have others that come up during this Q&A session, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I will be keeping my eye on them. Adam, so the first couple questions that I have, and then I also want to encourage you, if you have additional thoughts or you have things that you want to interject with, please feel free. So one of the first questions I wanted to ask you is about when you spoke about how it's one thing to create a business and it's another thing to create a business without considering demand for that. And I think that's such an interesting thing when we talk about small business owners, because a lot of people think, okay, well, a lot of people launch small businesses to nurture their passions, right? They do it to nurture their passions. And that passion might be anything. It could be playing an instrument. It could be teaching lessons for that. It could be, I always go back to the making candles because that is my true dream job, is that I just get to be very picky with what candles I make. And I'm the authority on candles in this country. But a lot of people might really think I have a great idea. I have a great idea. People just don't see it yet. And obviously, we know that innovation comes from people who break the mold. Do you have any suggestions on how people can go about creating demand? If they sit here and they say, you know what, I'm adamant on pushing this out. Obviously, we encourage people to be reasonable about their expectations and to know, listen, if you're going to throw all of your money at this, please do some research first. But some people might really be approaching this from the idea of, no, I have a service to offer. People just don't see it yet. And obviously there's, marketing campaigns, but how do you go about generating demand for your business?
Yeah, that's a really hard question to answer with any silver bullet, but I will shed some light on this. It still goes back to community for me with that. And I want to really shed some light on what I mean by people starting a business. it doesn't necessarily mean you're jumping ship, right? A lot of us start the idea, the incubation, while we still have another job, while we're still doing something else to keep making that income. And I champion the sometimers. I champion the part-timers. I would love to listen to your inspirations and your ideas, because creating demand comes through energy. If you have the ability to share and cast that vision vividly with the people that you're already surrounded by, it's infectious. And when it's infectious, they want to share in it. I mean, think about your favorite stories, right? Harry Potter is a real deal. It's like people loved it, and it became a worldwide sensation because everybody was obsessed with it, and they shared in it. And when you found another Potterhead, you're just like, this is amazing. Like people do this. It's the same thing with business.
Oh my
If
gosh,
you
I saw there was a guy, sorry, there was a guy who parked his car outside of my apartment building the other day with a Buffalo Bills bumper sticker, and I'm from Western New York, and I immediately walked up to him and was like, I bought my brother the Buffalo wing hat for Christmas, and we had a great conversation. Sorry, I had to say that. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. You have a common denominator.
Yeah, the common denominator is something that's going to keep the conversation flowing and energized. I mean, obviously, you can't beat your head against a wall and you can't beat a dead horse. There's all those sayings about not having demand or people not being ready for it. But if you're energized and you find some familiarity to talk about it, you can start creating
Yeah.
vivid imaginations on your business and what it could do for others. And when others buy into it, it becomes infectious. And I will say that if you're part of a community that's small business owners and founders, people that are creating and constructing, that's a great place to be, because we want to be an echo chamber. We want to be a megaphone. We want to share in those moments. And if you do become successful, oh my God, it's so cool to say, my friend Jonathan was on the New York Times bestseller. Like, how cool is that, right? There are reasons why we get into this, and it's not necessarily to be that 0 to 1, that Peter Thiel, right? We're not trying to always be contrarian.
Yeah.
But if you have a beautiful idea and you want to bring it to life, it all just comes down to energy and commitment to your community, I think.
I think that's such a remarkable answer, because that's so, and I've kind of noticed that as a trend with some of these conversations we've had, especially throughout the years talking to you. I think it's so clear that your intention as a business owner, your intention of someone who just wants to, create a product or share a service with people, your intention matters so much to not only your community of people that might work for you, or people, your vendors, but your customers. Like, when you really, really believe in what you have to provide, it's very easy to be convinced of it. Or it's a little more, I think it's a lot more easy than if you're just trying to say, these are the KPIs of my product, this is what it's going to do for you. It boils down to stories. And this whole presentation, you said, I'm going to do it through stories. Why did you do that? Because that's what people can connect with. Stories are the thing that people are really able to say, okay, well, I remember there was a beginning, middle, end. I took all of this away and I learned something from it. And I think there's just so much power to really considering, why am I doing this and what am I trying to put out there? And it can't just be, I want to make money. And I think that's such an important thing to reflect on. And community, as you've said, is such a core element of that. Now, with you in particular, this is a question I'd written down a lot about what you said, but also because the way that you hold yourself, I think is so remarkable. How do you stay on off days? When you're building a community, when you're working with businesses, building a business is, you have to be on all the time, no matter what the scale is. And I think nowadays people are a lot more understanding of needing to give grace when grace is asked for, if people saying, you know what, I'm overloaded, I need to take a step back. But a lot of times, if you're talking to a client and you're having a bad day, hopefully that client will be very understanding, but you as a professional, understand, well, they're paying me to accomplish X goal. Do you have any tips for people on how, do you have any tips for me on how to stay on very specifically, this is not about your presentation. Adam, how do I pull it together? Do you have any suggestions on how to stay on an off day when dealing with clients, when dealing with fellow employees, whatever it might be?
Yeah, I would default number one to the radar, right? Be aware that you need to be surrounded by positivity. So know your safe spaces, know the places you can go to get re-energized. And then mental dexterity is an art. It's like going to the gym. Sometimes it sucks and sometimes it feels great. When you really overcome those down moments and you recoup and you revitalize your business and you go after it days later, weeks later, whatever it takes to get out of that slump, it feels good. share it with somebody. You got to share it with somebody because it gives merit and it teaches your subconscious that you're capable, that you can do this, right? We get overwhelmed by the technical know-hows. We get overwhelmed by the fact that we have to create demand, that we've got to be an online persona, that we've got to do all this marketing. But stop it. There are so many people around you that are so willing to help you, that have those skill sets in the community. So you don't have to know it all. So if what's got you down is the fact that you might not know it all, start talking to people. Go to that safe space. Find the people that are willing to support you and celebrate in that success. And then, I mean, you do this so well, Jonathan. There are days when you've just got to check out. Honestly, there are days when you have no bones, right?
Can I tell you, Adam, I'm so good at checking out. I am so accomplished at checking out.
You got to know your boundaries. And honestly, if you set the stage with those around you that are in your business, right? If they're employees or managers or people, even, co-founders, if you're open to discussing that and really challenging yourself to show up in a transparent and vulnerable way when you need it, you're human. Like they want to be there and celebrate that and support you, because nobody wants to burn out. We want to burn together, right? Mm-hmm. That's the big deal. If you have a match and you blow on it, it's gone. Put a bunch of matches together, it withstands a hurricane wind. Like, it's wild what we can do by supporting each other in those moments of mental dexterity. And when we need to have that quiet time, that reflection time, that me time, like really.
And again, I love that you said that. And so much of what we're saying all just continues to tie back into community. And it's amazing to think about. I think what a lot of people might not realize is community. A lot of it just means is like you have extended your knowledge in a way that you just have people who you have built this trusted resource network with, where you can tap into their, you could say, hey, I might not know this, but this person on speed dial does, and we have such a great relationship. They know they can rely on me. I know I can rely on them. I do know this because of the people that you have around you. And it's so amazing to hear you, talk about how much not only you recognize that, but you champion that, because it seems kind of obvious in a little ways. It seems very obvious, like lean on your resources. But I think that's something that people, will shy away from sometimes, as they really do. They sit there and go, I have to know it all. I have to be the authority. And it's like, no, if you are offering a service, you have to be the authority on accomplishing that service, but you can use anything at your disposal to get it done. And it's so amazing to hear you talk about it in that way. I have a few questions from the community now that I want to ask you. So the first one is there a difference in how you approach starting a full-time business versus how you start launching a side hustle?
Yeah. So I will say this, fiscal responsibility is important. If you are going to jump ship and start something full-time, the last thing you want to do is resent that experience. So be prepared for it. Be real. Ask people that have done it. Make sure you take inventory on where you're headed and what that timeline looks like, because it's a big deal. And I love people that take the full leap, go all in. It's so exciting to be part of their stories, but I can guarantee you it's a grind at first. So be real with that. And then the reason I love the idea of side hustles, the part-timer, sometimer, is because it gets your idea a breath of life. It lets you see it live while you still have some foundation. And then you can decide if, whoa, this could be something bigger. I can really make this into a meaningful lifestyle company for myself. And there's nothing more powerful in life than giving yourself options. If you have a side hustle and it gives you the option to take days off because you no longer have to worry about that extra income, that's a big deal. If you have a side hustle and it's giving you the confidence to maybe take a leap and launch a business and you're in control now, that's a big deal. I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing we have is time, experience with each other. If you have to go be with a loved one, and I recently had to do this, and you got to check out for a little while, those options, those don't exist if you're at the whim of others, right? So if you don't have a side hustle, if you don't have an idea that you're incubating, creating, or if you haven't taken that leap, I challenge you to ask yourself why, what's holding you back if you really want to do that, because you can start having options in life on where you want to go, how you want to work, and who you want to be around.
Yeah. Fear is so limiting in that way. But it's amazing how you just shift that mindset from, it's not that I'm taking a leap that's going to sacrifice anything. I'm just testing the waters to see if this is something. And obviously you said it's a time commitment. It's not no effort to like launch a side hustle and see how it goes. But it's such a great way to commit without committing. And it really is. It's a way that I think a lot of people who have that idea, it's such a great way to get, their foot through the door, and a way to really to see like how much light is behind there. And I also really appreciated how you touched upon just like the value of being human. I think that's one of the really good, if we're going to talk about good things that have come out of social media, I think one of the really good things that have come out of social media is that fourth wall has broken, and people just have a much more empathetic understanding of like small businesses are run by people who are working very hard for the most part. And if transparency goes so far with people who I follow a couple of creators who sell products, and they would post, they say, listen, my dog passed away and I'm a wreck and I need to take time. Your orders are going to be late and I'm so sorry. The comments were not, how could you? This was supposed to get here on this day. These people sat there and they said, I like your product, but also I understand where you're coming from. And this, now I understand so much more about you and your business, that might very well make them a return customer, because now they sit there and go, no, they're going to be upfront with me. And I know this person and I relate to this person, and that there's you can't pay for that. You can't pay for that kind of value, right? It's like word of mouth marketing. You cannot pay to get someone to truly, authentically, and organically tell someone that they recommend something to you. That is just the most value that it gets. We have some more questions for you, Adam. This is from Patrick. I notice fear keeps people from taking the first steps of pursuing their ideas. What tips do you have on replacing fear with fact? And I think you have touched on this a bit with our last conversation, but I think this can be a little more all-encompassing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, a lot of us get disparaged as we start looking at what it takes to bring a business to life. I mean, obviously, there's the juxtaposition of who am I to even do this, right? And challenging yourself from who am I to why not me?
Yeah.
Those are difficult mind shifts. And when you start looking into the facts that come to how to start a business, how many people fail in business, you're looking at those in a negative way. That can be disparaging. But if you shift the mindset on facts to being positive, right? Where is technology enhance the ability to bring a business to life? Why am I so special that I exist in a time when it is easy, really simple to get online and get found? When I have to be able to reach through the screen and have conversations with people like those that are in our chat, like Marsha, like Patrick, like Emma, like Amy, like Johnny, like everybody that we've had this week, right? We've got this high caliber of people around us. And I think challenging ourselves to get out of that fear comes down to just committing to be part of a conversation. And if we're going to look at facts, we've got to start looking at facts with positivity.
Yeah.
As opposed to reflecting on why me? Why me? Why not me? Like, why not? Right?
How remarkable that like it's so easy to rest. The default is, at least it is for me, is why me? It's like, why, you know what I mean? That it's so wild how you have to be so intentional about rooting for yourself. That seems like it should be such an innate thing, but it's not for a lot of people.
No, it's a difficult place to be, and that's why I harp on communities so much.
Yeah, and I think even just recognizing that is so powerful.
Yeah, if you've got people around you that are willing to hold you up in those moments where you start to really trip up and fear that you're going to fail forward, well, you're probably going to fail forward, but you're going to do it gloriously, and it's going to be a great lifestyle lesson. It's going to be a wonderful experience, and you get to share it.
Truly, I think that's such an important way to look at all of this, is like, if you can learn from an experience, it's not a failure. It's not a waste of time. It's just like you said, it's a way to fail forward, which I think is such a way that people don't look at it that way, right? They think of failure or mistakes purely as regression. And it's like, no, that's what testing is, but we just call it something else. We just give it a nicer word and we feel better about it. So I have a couple other questions for you, Adam. If you had to do it all over again, if you had to start from scratch without any of the knowledge that you have now, no, with all the knowledge you have now, but not knowing that AI is around the corner, what would you do over again?
Oh, Lord. That's a hard question. I feel like,
Isn't it?
yeah, I feel like the one thing that really sticks out to me is I am I am a perfectionist to a fault, but I also feel very ignorant when I'm surrounded by very smart people. I think I would probably ask real curious questions, like meaningful questions, and get context faster if I had to do it over again. Because, like, back to that scenario of fear, right? We all have ideas, we all have things that pop up on us during the week, one we're trying to build, one we're trying to launch, and it can get overwhelming. We've got tasks and deadlines and things we've got to hit. And one of the things that I started instituting along the way was where on Friday, I would just be with my thoughts and I would allow them to just kind of come out. So during the week, if I had something pop up, an idea or an issue or whatever, I would just write it down and leave it alone. I would not focus on it because that level of fear and being ignorant or wanting to be inside of that problem would detract me and derail me. And then that feeds into your energy. And that's just a difficult thing to really to harness and hone in, keep at bay, if you will. So if I had to do it over again, I would 100% take those Fridays and involve others with me. Like I was by myself writing those out and exploring those ideas. I would involve others and I would start asking meaningful questions that could really shed some light on the fact that it's not fear. It's just me wanting to know too much and not getting out of my own way, right?
Yeah. That's, I think, I love that. I love that answer for that, because that can be applied to so many things, right? That can be applied to business. That can be applied to anything that you're interested in growing in, any aspect of your life that you're interested in growing in. Leaning on people who have experience that you can learn from is such an important thing. And it's such a way to put, it takes a lot. You got to put your ego aside. You got to put, which is like, for better or for worse, it's something that I think anyone who bets on themselves has to have in some capacity, right? Anyone who bets on themselves in some capacity has to have some semblance of ego. Not that it's a bad thing, but you have to put that aside and sit there and just go, no, like, I am ready to absorb information. Sometimes it's really hard to admit that you don't know something. Sometimes people are really scared to learn something publicly. And that's something that I think is also, people get really afraid of making mistakes because they don't know if they'll be able to come back from it. And like, you have to be able to stumble before you walk. You have to. That's the only way that you're going to get better at what you do. And, it's great to hear that you have that kind of clarity now. And I think anyone watching this who's just starting off would be very wise to listen to that advice, especially nowadays where you have so many resources available to you that are just online. It's on YouTube. It's on, Lynda. It's just, you can just learn from, it's people like Adam. You can just talk to people. You can look at videos and you can learn. Okay, next question I've got for you. What challenges or differences do you see ahead for others looking to build their own businesses or apps in the next few years with everything coming down the pipeline?
Yeah, so that's a really, really interesting thought right now. I think the challenge
Every day it changes.
It does. It changes every day. The speed of everything is probably one of the main challenges because a lot of us have squirrel syndrome where we think we have a valid idea and we're immediately disparaged because something else comes out and it's cool and it's shiny and it's got momentum. And so we think, oh, we should be over in that space. I think that's a big challenge, is knowing your space, knowing your reason for why you're launching a business. Like, back to that, sitting with it and being real. What's the win-win? Why are you bringing this to life? Is it to make a paycheck or is it to create a life? Right? Because there's a lot of technology advancement happening right now with generative AI, with these online learning and skills, the LS stuff. There's people that are creating modules that will literally take an idea from incubation to concept. But if we give into that squirrel syndrome, if we really don't focus on what we actually want to get after, we're going to make a paycheck and then we're going to be right back at point A, 6 months down the road or 3 months down the road or a year or whatever. And I don't know, if you're going to create a meaningful life built around something beautiful, that's the challenge. How can you create something that will be lasting and is not that fireworks effect? You want to be a shining star, not a shooting star, right? You want to be out there really lasting.
Yeah. And the why is so important. And the why is what's going to get you there. Again, to be embroidered, you want to be a shining star, not a shooting star. Embroidered. I love it. We have a question from Emma, Adam. can you suggest a way to think differently about charging what you feel you should for a product or service versus just giving it away? This question is coming from a place of having a service that is people don't always consider it a business. It's not always seen with the business propositions for what this is, but it's a service and people need to be charged for it. So how would you go about setting a price point or reevaluating price points for services and products?
Yeah, so I think it's important to check in on your cost basis always, because you are valuable. And the more skills that you acquire, the more experience you bring to the table, the more valuable that really is. It comes down to like the ideal of, and I know we're talking about service businesses, but let's talk about a contractor, right? I can go buy the materials to lay a driveway for 800 bucks. I could buy it all,
Yeah.
but I didn't go to school for it. I don't know how to do it. Maybe they'll teach me how to do it. That's cool. They can teach me how to do it, but then I have to buy the tools and reinvest and do all that. And then I'm left with a little bit of savings and a whole lot of time that's been lost. So I think for service-based businesses specifically, and I think they're so powerful, focusing on the impact you're bringing, number one, is important.
Yeah.
So make sure you're sharing the outcomes, the stories, right? The reasons why people work with you. That'll validate why you're there and allow you to walk away if necessary and stop giving it away for free, because at the end of the day, the only thing that we can't get back is time. And if you've invested in something that's going to make my life better and it's going to give me my time back, ooh, it's more valuable than you could even know. You probably
Right?
should raise your prices. Like there's no
Yeah, the cost is now priceless because it's time.
So, challenge yourself and then look up. Like so many people forget to look up at their competitors if they're really competitors. I don't mean like online, solutions that are coming out and streamlining things. I mean like true value service providing competitors, because you know what? They exist, you exist, you can coexist. And if you start raising the bar, maybe then wait and raise the bar too. You know, not all about being the cheapest person in the pool. It's about doing right and doing right now. Like it's efficiency right now.
Totally. And it's I even love that idea because it's that again, you approach everything with such like a positive, encouraging mindset, but that doesn't mean that you can't like leverage the learnings that other people are giving you for your advantage. Like I love that look up, like that idea of like, yes, you want to launch this business. You have a competitor who is a Fortune 700, and this is their main product, and these are the things that are successful about what they're doing. How can you innovate there? Like look at those key things and then just innovate in that space, and that's going to get you those other people. I really love that approach. And I also think this also what you said earlier about community, right? The more you involve yourself in a community that also, understands or validates the service, and the more you yourself and these people evangelize that outside, you will build demand for this. And in building demand, you will get a much better understanding of what a price point should be based on the amount of people looking to even inquire and learn more about it. I think that's such an interesting, that's such a great answer to this question. And I suppose, Adam, I have one more question for you. And everyone, if you have another one, drop it in or forever hold your peace. But I think whenever I think of you, Adam, one of the cores that comes up is community. That's like the number one thing I think about is even when I consider your business and the way you interact with others. Like I feel like you always have such a good pulse on where other people are in their lives, in the way that they're navigating a difficult time. I think you're someone who's very empathetic, and it's shown in your presentation, and it's shown in the way that you build community and the way that you set up all of these presentations every other week. How do you build empathy? How do you learn empathy? And I don't mean like, how do you fix a sociopath? But I mean, how do you take that human emotion and learn to make it work for you and learn to learn from it? How do you build empathy? How do you lead with empathy?
I think it's starting with the idea that whatever you do is going to ripple out and affect people. The idea of leaving a legacy is only worthy of the people that can remember and share who you were. And the more people you interact with in a meaningful way and elevate their existence, that elevates your existence. That's creating your legacy. And if we remember that we're cascading out into the world as this beautiful person, we can start approaching conversations and really understand that people are people. We all have ups and downs. We all have great stories to share and wonderful obstacles that we've overcome and stories that have still been not written, right? That we need to share. And so one of the reasons I love doing these meetups is because it challenges people to really share in the now. And it allows me really, I mean, self-serving a little bit to build that empathy, to really be on the pulse of where people are at and what they're feeling and where they're headed. Because if we can start challenging ourselves in the now, as opposed to waiting until we get to write our autobiography and share a success, we can start, learning through each other. We can grow through each other. We can ripple as being part of that audience of success. The reason that you exist is to elevate others. I know sometimes when we do these meetups, it seems like it's all free 99, right? Free 99, come on out. We don't charge for it. You get to learn from all these amazing people, but really there's a reason we're doing it. It's creating an environment of safety so that when I need to talk, I can, and it's give and take. And then it allows me to raise that radar, to really be real, because business has to balance tech and humanity. It's got to be centered around community, and it's got to elevate those around you. And if you're not empathetic and you haven't been able to build that, start challenging people to share their stories and start sharing yours.
Yeah.
And if you're not, ask yourself why. Like, what's holding you back?
I think that's so potent. And I think that's something that anyone watching this should be one of your key takeaways from this. As you've said, like whether you're building, like if you're building a business, if you're building community, like no matter what it is, you are in the relationship business. You are in the business of relationships, and being able to take stock in that and being able to sit there and really recognize, like, I am working with people. And, as you said earlier in the presentation, all we've got is time. One of my favorite sayings, I don't know if you grew up watching, or I don't know if I grew up because I'm so young, I'm 22 years old. If you watched Whose Line Is It Anyway? But it was one of my favorite shows, and I'm 33. And one of my favorite things is Drew Carey would always say, welcome to Whose Line Is It Anyway? The show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. And that's one of my favorite sayings. And I keep that in the back of my mind anytime I'm taking something too seriously or I'm taking myself too seriously. Obviously, running a business is a very serious thing. But as you said, all we have is time. Everything's made up and the points don't matter. The only thing that really matters is that you have, made the world a little bit of a better place, maybe, than it was, and you've helped people with your business and you've made those connections. And Adam, you've done so much of that within the GoDaddy community, and we're so grateful for you. I don't know if you've had a chance to check on the chat, but there is like this should be printed out and put in a reliquary somewhere. This is so amazing, and it's such a testament to why we have this community and why you are such a valuable member of this. Look at what this week has been. Look, this week it's been. We've got so many of these people in our community have gotten the chance to have the spotlight and share what they know in succession of each other. And it's just, again, this is the testament. This is the why. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for all you do for this community. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, sharing your knowledge with us, and teaching us, as you always do. Now, before we sign off, please, anyone watching this, please tell them if they want to reach out to you or if they want to know more from you, where can we hear, or where can we follow you? And then also, please just tell us one really exciting thing you have coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, so you can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active and I love supporting this community. I'm a part of other communities, but this one's really the core of everything that I do. And I really just appreciate connecting and learning from people. If you've got an idea and you want to spitball it, I'm all for it. I love getting engaged in that. Yeah. And then exciting things down the pike. I'm leaving right now, right after this meeting, to drive to Boston so my kids can experience some American history in real life.